Alright guys, tanks guarding a crashed UFO in Antarctica. Sounds crazy, right? Now, July 2012, a mysterious Google Earth image emerged on the internet. It was discovered by a Russian UFO researcher. Now, I remember that, but you guys might remember that too. Now, according to the non-believers, it was simply a crevasse in the ice. That's what they're calling it, okay? Kind of like swamp gas. Okay, so basically a big hole in the ice that happened to look like a UFO. It kind of reminded me of the Baltic Sea anomaly, which we're going to talk about later. Now, however, there was an image taken from the exact location 1 year earlier. So we're going back to 2011, and it appears to show, an army tanks, I don't know how else to say it, guarding, some type of object. I mean, you guys look at the picture, you tell me what you think, okay? Like I said, researchers went back to April and December 2011 and found what appeared to be 4 massive objects pointed towards an unidentified object. So, basically, a guy discovered the crash site in 2012. Okay, they went back to 2011, and it appeared to be guarded by 4 tanks. I mean, these are like what these internet detectives do, okay? I mean, it's crazy. Just let that sink in for a minute, okay? And they had been there, the tanks or whatever they are, they'd been there for several months, okay? So, and I remember when this happened, and when you look at the images, it's totally obvious there's something more than a simple hole in the ice, okay? It's not just a hole or a crevasse, as they call it, okay? It's clearly some type of object being watched over by 4 other large objects. Now, it could be tents, it could be some type of living quarters, I'm not sure, but you can see the pathways going over to the object. I mean, let me hit pause here, guys. I want you to look at that for a minute, because you can clearly see you got 4 objects here on the right, and what looks to be a crash UFO, okay? And the picture on the right is from 2011. The picture on the left is from 2012. So they're calling the picture from 2012 a crevasse, which is basically a big hole in the ice. But they go to the exact same longitude and latitude in 2011, and they found that image. So what do you make of that, guys? I mean, that's crazy. Also, I heard another, very logical explanation. Let me hit play again for you. Okay, it could have been, an abandoned army tanks going all the way back to World War II and Operation Highjump. And we're going to talk about that in the second half of the video. So, I think it might tie together, right? I mean, all of this might tie together. So guys, stay tuned. I got a very interesting part 2 coming up.
On this expedition, we hope to fly across the South Pole into the mysterious land beyond to see what is there. To the cameramen who made this picture, I want to give full credit. They did not hesitate to risk their lives at their job. Now, the North Pole is the center of a deep ocean, whereas the South Pole is the center of a high plateau, which averages 7,000 or 8,000 feet in altitude. There is no life whatever beyond the edge of the world. There are no Eskimo. It is too cold for human beings to live there permanently. When we left...
All right, now let's get into Operation Highjump, and there is a connection, okay? It is believed, it is known that about 250,000 senior Nazi officials managed to escape in U-boats from Germany to a secret location in Antarctica, right? Towards the end of World War II. Okay, you guys look it up, right? I mean, some people believe even Hitler was one of the escapees. Now, I don't know if I believe that, but it is a rumor. Okay, now, but you would think if they had 250,000 Nazi soldiers escaping to Antarctica, somebody would have noticed, right? And we do know for a fact that some of them ended up in Argentina. I've watched documentaries. I mean, the History Channel had great documentaries on it, okay? Now, we've all heard the rumors that the Germans were building powerful secret weapons at the Antarctica base, and it's well documented. The Nazi bell, things like that. Maybe I'll make a separate video, going over exactly what they were doing, okay? Now, it seemed incredibly far-fetched until you take a look at what happened just before World War II ends. Out of nowhere, the video you're watching here, the United States decided to go on a huge expedition to Antarctica while the war was still going on. Like, what? It's crazy. And I've done a lot of research on this, okay? And remember, the country was desperate for money, weapons, warehouse workers. They were desperate for everything. So why would they allocate all of those resources, in order to take an expedition to Antarctica? Look, that's like taking an expensive vacation when you're completely broke. Like, why would America do that? Okay, the expedition was known as Operation Highjump. Okay, and what's even more shocking than that is they had over 4,000 United States of America personnel led by Admiral Richard Byrd. Okay, you're going to see an interview right here. And I've watched them all. Okay, and dozens of aircraft, ships, tanks, all of that went on this expedition. In fact, I watched a very sad documentary earlier where I think 3 or 4, men crashed in a plane. They wrote, that they were dead on the wing. It was, and guys, I've done my homework, okay? Now, no other U.S. expedition to Antarctica had been so incredibly massive, especially at a time of war when the country needed every dollar they could get. The expedition was supposed to be around 7 to 9 months, even up to 1 year, right? Even up to 1 year. But in just after 1 month, it abruptly ended.
News of the rescue finds the icebreaker with Admiral Cruzen fighting her way through thickening ice to pick up Admiral Byrd and his men at Little America. Byrd is radioed for all speed.
At the base, the Admiral supervises Operation Secure. All essential records and scientific instruments are to be taken home. The planes must remain. They are stripped down with the hope that another American expedition in a future year may find them of use. Supply dumps are marked by poles. And now through the capes comes the old reliable workhorse, the icebreaker.
Now, according to unofficial documents, the United States was attacked and took on severe casualties. Basically, they were ran out of town. But who were they fighting? Why were they fighting? What was going on? We don't know. And here's another. I thought about this too. I was thinking about it last night. Okay, who would travel all the way to Antarctica in order to attack the Americans? Who and why? Would it be Germany, another country? Like, why would they do that? To me, I don't know. I kind of lean, it's got to be aliens. I mean, that's, I know it sounds crazy, but who would, look, you have to understand back then, in the 40s and 50s, like, why would they go to Antarctica? I mean, it was virtually unexplored. Why would, they send an army there, to attack the Americans? It doesn't make any sense, okay? Now, Admiral Richard Byrd was quoted in the Chilean press claiming they were confronted by a new enemy that could fly from pole to pole at incredible speeds. Now, doesn't that kind of remind you of when Ronald Reagan was talking about how, if the world was faced, by an alien threat, we would all come together? So you got to connect dots. I mean, it goes all the way back to Roswell, this reverse, engineering. Then the Germans get their hands on whatever they got their hands on, and they create all this crazy advanced technology, and maybe they use that technology to attack the Americans in Antarctica. Because, like I said, they were ran out of town, okay? And it was believed, like I said, this was some kind of alien technology. Now, also, we have several well-documented reports of pilots being chased by UFOs in Antarctica. And remember, okay, this was back when these guys, they were flying around prop planes, with propellers, right? They didn't have the type of aircraft we have today, okay? The pilots also reported they were being followed by balls of light. And look, most of you know the pilots called the UFOs Foo Fighters, like the popular band, okay, Foo Fighters. And the UFOs, but they say the UFOs never attack them, but they would disable any type of weapons they had on board or whatever, just leaving the Americans completely defenseless, all right? Now, according to the official United States documents, like I said, none of this happened. Swamp gas, okay? None of this happened. You're crazy. You're a UFO nut, okay? But let me put it this way. It could be this. The reason the expedition was canceled, I think because it seems to me like the Americans, like I said, they got ran out of town, but I think the burning question is by who and by, like, who, what, when, where, why. That is really the question, okay? Could it have been UFOs? Sure. Could it have been reverse technology? Sure. Could it have been the Germans? Sure. Like, we don't know. Okay? And also, by the way, I do have an update coming on the Baltic Sea anomaly. You know, someone asked me in the comment section earlier to talk about it, so yeah, I definitely have an update coming here. So, I mean, think about this, guys. It ties together. When you look at these, you know, let's go back to the beginning of the video. You have these, like, 4 weird objects that appear to be army tanks, like, protecting, or guarding, rather, what appears to be a downed UFO. And it was in, you know, a similar location as the Project Highjump. Or I'm sorry, wow, I'm thinking Project Blue Book. Operation Highjump, okay? I mean, so you got to put all this together. You got to do your research. You have to do your homework. It cannot be a coincidence. I mean, they just connect the dots. I mean, there's too many things lining up here. I believe it's probably reversed German alien technology, and they tested it out on the Americans in Antarctica, knowing that they didn't have all the equipment to fight back. I mean, they were there with very limited supplies. You know, they had some ships, some planes, some tanks, but ultimately they were sitting ducks, okay? And I've read memos and diaries and things like that, you know, from the soldiers, and they talked about these balls of light, you know, Foo Fighters. You know, so I think it's crazy, you know, again, all these UFO channels out there, none of them talk about this stuff, right? It doesn't get you views, I guess, on YouTube. It's not popular. But, you know, I'm truly all about the UFO research. I want to get to the bottom of it. And I think, you know, these cases are incredibly important. You have to revisit them, you know, and also I tried to add, you know, something new in the beginning. But ultimately, you know, I like to go back and dig deeper and deeper and deeper, kind of like the USS Nimitz. And I think that's tied to it as well. I mean, think how crazy would it be? What if the UFO that attacked the USS Nimitz, what if that UFO was tied to Operation Highjump? What if it was reverse technology going all the way back to Roswell? You know, World War II, then Roswell. You know, then this Navy video that came out. Like, what if all 3 of them are the same technology? I mean, I think it's a good possibility. It's all right, guys. Look, I get passionate and excited, but I'm going to leave it at that.
In freezing water. Men from Mars, members of a special underwater demolition team, wear the new cold water rubber survival suit. In contrast to these skylarking youngsters eating ice cream in the ice, men in ordinary clothing are paralyzed in 6 minutes and die very quickly thereafter. Yet these sailors, wearing only underwear beneath their survival suits, stay in half an hour and come up chipper and warm.